Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The season is far from beginning, but Scrappy is up to his old tricks yet again, shooting a fair few bodies over the last couple of days and talking a bit of trash on certain players we shall dive into over the coming minutes. Will he be able to bounce back from the tragic grand finals result they had at the World Championship? But Scrappy is certainly not putting anything to bed at the moment. I want to treat your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. The eventual champions of that $20,000 4v4 hardpoint tournament were aBeZy and co. And I thought it was crazy to think about that aBeZy managed to put together here a 4-minute 30 highlight video from this. And in the replies he was saying, well, you know, I could have made it shorter, but there was no point because there was enough clips to do 4 minutes 30. So I might as well go for it. aBeZy's POV is ridiculous. You've got to be said. I mean, Simp in terms of like raw individual talent, gun skill, you know, maybe I would say that Simp is maybe up there, slightly above aBeZy, but you can really see why when you watch aBeZy's POV, why for the last several years, even during the Cold War season, and even during Cold War, like, I think that Simp was maybe still slightly better than aBeZy, but, I mean, it's so marginal at that point, and a lot of the pros were, for good reason, saying, like, aBeZy's just the hardest player to play against, and just watching his POV, you can tell exactly why. The gun skill is insane, the awareness is insane, his comms in this as well are really good to note also. I was just, I mean, yeah, aBeZy's such a hard player to deal with. It's actually kind of incredible. No one, I don't think, in the game can do what aBeZy does. And this is obviously hardpoint, right? This isn't even search and destroy, where aBeZy is arguably even more difficult to deal with. So, yeah, I mean, 4 minutes 30 of highlights from this tournament is absolutely outrageous. And, I mean, yeah, FaZe on paper might be even better in the new season, given the fact that the game is more similar to Cold War in some sense. So, I mean, yeah, you can let this play out the entire time, but we don't need to. You guys get the point. Also, wanted to mention, Doug has been upping his pull-up numbers. I don't know when he's going to, if you guys have been watching his streams, I don't know if he's mentioned when he's going to try and attempt this record, but he's been absolutely killing it. He's done like, you know, 20,000 pull-ups in the last couple of weeks. It's absolutely absurd. And I think the all-time record, like David Goggins set the record for pull-ups in 24 hours with like 4,500 or something, but now someone's broken that again and has done like 8,000 or something ridiculous. So, like, I don't know if Doug's going to be able to go for that or wants to go for that, or that's still the plan, but I mean, like, he's making progress, so I just wanted to mention that because that's like Doug's big plan this offseason was to try and break the Guinness World Record for that, or at least attempt it. It's going to be a monumental challenge, but he's been putting in the shift, so massive respect to Doug, to be honest. Also, this that I'm looking forward to, so Kenny's been playing a fair bit of Apex with Pred lately. He's also got a Q&A on the way that he's going to do today, so that's going to be pretty interesting just to hear what his perspective is, I suppose, on the upcoming season. Also wanted to mention this from ZooMaa's, because we discussed Clayster's thoughts on the top 5 COD pros of all time, or at least the fact that he considers himself to be number 2 behind Crimsix, and we discussed how it's arguable from certain angles. I think it's a little bit difficult to argue he's above Scump, I would say. You can definitely argue that he's kind of there or thereabouts with Karma, and that seems to be ZooMaa's opinion on this. In terms of accolades, Crim takes it. Scump, I think, has probably got to be number 2, to be honest. And then it comes down between Karma and Clay, and look, it depends, and I do wonder what you guys think, because now Karma's retired, he can't really add anything further to his accolades, as it were, but Clay still can. But if Clay competes for like another couple of seasons and just gets bodied every game and the teams never do anything, does that add or does that detract from his legacy? Like, does it add a little bit because he's still playing, but if he's still getting, you know, if his team's getting slammed, then does that retract? I don't know, it's a little bit of a difficult one.
Crim is definitely my number 1, in my opinion. And then number 2, I'd probably go Scump number 2. And then Clay and Damon for like 3 and 4. And then, I don't know, probably something around there, like around like that, something like that.
So there was kind of World War III in the replies of this tweet when, you know, kind of asked the question, is Karma or Clay going to have the better career? And some people were saying that Karma's clear, Clay's never going to be able to accomplish what Karma has done, and it would take Clay to, like, you know, win champs again with another team to get over Karma. To be fair, if Clay wins champs again, like, if he was to have won champs this year with Vegas, he's probably got to be the GOAT at that point, to be honest, right? Like, I think that would kind of cement, that would put him right up there, but it's probably not going to happen, is it? So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, some in the replies as well were saying, oh, Clay's already clear of Karma, like, you know, Clay can be for longer than Karma, so it's a really, you know, it's a controversial one in the scene, no doubt. People seem to be very much split on on what they think. But yeah, I just wonder, like, if Clay just goes and gets top 12 every event in the new season with Los Angeles Grillers, does that add or does that detract from his legacy? It definitely doesn't add really anything at all, because Karma could do the same thing. But if he has good success, Clay, this year, and, you know, makes a championship Sunday, makes a final or something, then, you know, maybe even wins an event as the Los Angeles Grillers somehow did during the Vanguard season, then that, you know, does add a fair bit, and every year gives, I guess, Clay a better chance to overcome Karma, unless Karma wants to come back, as he has hinted before that he might do it. His wife Holly has hinted at that before as well, but also Karma being a coach, does that add anything? I don't know. As a player, obviously, is kind of what we're talking about here, but let's talk about Scrappy, because he's one of the players, as Clay said in that interview with the Stocksman, or like just podcast discussion really, he wants to go down as a top 5, top 10 player of all time, but there are other players that will be coming for that, you know, accolade, right? Clay is maybe top 4 as it stands, but let's say in 10, 15 years time, assuming competitive COD still exists, and, you know, as long as COD exists, some form of competitive play in COD will exist. That's how it goes. How that's supported by Activision and the scene, it's another question entirely, but there will be other players that come through. Simp and aBeZy are the two key ones really, already 2-time world champions. You've got to think they get a 3rd ring at some point. They might well get a 4th ring at some point. So it seems like they're only, if they continue on their trajectory, they're not too many years away from really mixing it up. And some people would say that Simp and aBeZy are already like top 5, top 6 level range. I don't think so personally. I have them more like top 9, top 10, top 8, something like that. There's still Aches, there's still JCat that I think they have to overtake, but you know, before they get to like formal Clay, stuff like this. But another few years, that's definitely on the cards. And Clay might start to drop down a little bit, right, in terms of where he sits in the all-time. So he wants to be top 10 all-time, but is he talking top 10 all-time in like 100 years? Or is he talking top 10 all-time in the next, like, you know, 5, 10 years? Because players like Scrappy also have the chance to do a potentially similar thing. Now, Scrappy's very early days, but you can imagine Scrap's career the way it looks like right now, who was, okay, he wasn't the MVP of the most recent season, but he wasn't far away. HyDra is in a similar boat as well to Scrap in some respect, but this was Scrappy's rookie year. Just came in, was arguably the best AR in the game, certainly up there right in the conversation, had a ridiculous individual season, and you're not expecting it to go away going forwards. Won an event, won an MVP, and is still on a very good team in that Toronto squad for the new season. So, you know, Scrap's one of the players that give him 5 years. I'm sure that he feels like, as I'm sure that Pred feels and HyDra feels, that they can really start to mix it up in that top 10 all-time conversation, given enough time. But Scrap does need to bounce back, of course, from the result at the end of last season, when he was talking this trash against Kismet, and then, what do you know, they get slammed 5-0, like ultra whitewashed in the grand finals of the World Championship, in frankly embarrassing fashion. But what I do respect about Scrappy is that he didn't really care about that, right? The next day, he's back on Twitter, he's talking trash yet again. That's how he does it. And now we're in the off-season, he's doing the same thing. Now, I think he's just kind of tongue-in-cheek this comment here to Havok, but I did want to mention it because I thought it was kind of funny that he looked back on the players that were still grinding ranked play. He sees that Havok managed to get all the way up to number 1 of the ladder, and, you know, just says, like, this guy should get a life type thing, which is funny. When you're a COD pro and you're talking about getting a life, I'm sure that he was just joking around a little bit. But there was also this clip, so plenty of clips from that 20k hardpoint tournament as well. And Scrap in this one was against a team that they slammed pretty hard. Here he is an Embassy, and it's not exactly a surprise that he's slamming these guys. But up against Jukies and Parasite and I think Gunless and co. So he takes down Parasite and Jukies here, and this third guy is, he goes by Adrian, but I mean, like, he just completely shoots this guy's body. I thought at first that was Gunless, but I don't think it actually was. But even afterwards, he calls all these guys terrible. So yeah, Scrappy's not slowing down.
This guy's number 1 on rank. Get a fucking life, bro. Get a life, bro.
Last one tennis, side door.
Yeah, 1E, Adrian.
Dad, I have all your right.
Yeah, I've got a trophy on you.
Yeah, I'm pushing that Xbox.
You can get out. There's 1 if you want, Scrap. Back alley.
Our halls, front halls, 1E.
In a dirty trap.
I'm watching side halls.
Yeah, I have all my tennis. 2 left. I need it.
Shoot will be front, right? Push it. Oh shit, you were having your way both games. Holy fuck.
Good job.
And their ass, bro. Actually, yeah.
It's good that Scrap's still bringing the energy like this, right? I don't think he's ever going to be changing, to be honest, in terms of even matches like this, and certainly in the CDL going forwards. Scrap's always going to be talking trash if the chance arises to do exactly that, and that's what we enjoy about these type of players. Also, what do you guys think is a good season for Toronto Ultra next year? Of course, they've made the change. It's going to be minus Hixie, it's going to be plus Envoy for the new season, but still, Scrap, Insight, CleanX, Envoy. It's a great team on paper, and honestly, they've made, in terms of theoretical upgrades, they've made the clearest cut one. I would say, I like Hixie, but still, if you can get Envoy in his place, it just makes more sense. So their team has gone from being a championship winning team, a runner-up in the grand finals of the World Championship, to quite significantly better as far as I'm concerned. Scrap is still going to be a monster. Insight, I think, actually could be even better on the new game. I don't think Insight's been quite as good on the last couple of titles. I think in a game with a slightly longer time to kill, Insight might even be slightly better. CleanX is always going to be CleanX, very much underrated player as far as I'm concerned. And then Envoy comes in at World Champion, really good team. So, but the thing is, right, they've got Subliners, they've got FaZe, they've got OpTic, they've got teams like Boston and others that will also be trying to make grand finals and trying to win events. And let's say there's 6 events, the kickoff, 4 majors, 5 majors, whatever, including champs, excluding champs. So, 6 events next year more than likely. What's a successful season for them? Of course, they want to win champs. They will runner-up this year, so their goal will be to win champs next year, but every team's goal is to win champs. Is one event win good enough as they had in the most recent season? Because Drazah said for FaZe that if they win one event and champs, that's a successful season, which it is. But if you were to win 5 events and not win champs, then that's still a successful season, but it's obviously not what you'd really want at the end of the day. So given the level of competition right at the top of the league, I think that, for any of these teams, if they can win an event and make a lot of Sundays and, make the grand finals of champs, that's a pretty successful year, but I'm sure Scrap will want to go one better. But it's just in terms of that discussion of Scrap eventually being in the conversation as one of the best ever, because he's certainly got the talent to be one of the best ever, but, Simp only has like 8 or 9 event wins in his career, but it's more difficult over the last few years. There's been less events than there were back in, let's say, 2015 or something during Advanced Warfare, but Simp and aBeZy are still not too many events away from being in that real top conversation. But still, if you're Scrap, you want to be winning like 2 events a year if you can, and then keep that up over the next 5 years, you'd be in a really good spot. But that's far easier said than done. He also was obviously, talking trash on Parasite, who was on the other team there. I don't think he shot his body specifically in that case, but he did certainly say the entire team is terrible, including, of course, Parasite himself. And Hagi's, obviously, this is his pinned tweet still from June the 19th on trying to look for a coaching or management role. Don't know if that's going to happen yet, or this is the thing, and I've said this as well with like easyMac and stuff, like formerly of FaZe, that the teams as it stands, if there was a time to get a spot as a coach or manager, it was probably 2020, 2021, when teams didn't really have coaches pre-CDL. It did happen. There were some teams with coaches and managers and stuff back in the CWL days, but it wasn't particularly common. Not all the pro teams had them at all. When the CDL happened, there were plenty of players that had recently retired that just got picked up as a coach because, oh, he was a former pro, so he must be good, and we've got infinite VC money, so we'll just give him, $80K a year to be our coach. Fantastic. Probably actually a lot more than that in some cases if the rumours that I've heard have been true. But now it's a different story, right? The teams are cutting back. Teams like Thieves are saying, well, we can't really afford the salaries we previously paid to our guys on the pro team. We've got to cut back a little bit. And it puts guys like Parasite in a tricky spot. I think that Parasite can add a lot of value to a team. But, first of all, there's proving that he can to certain teams that might not be so sure. Maybe he has to grind through challenges and do some coaching down there and build up a slightly bit more of a CV. And then there's, teams aren't going to be willing from a money side as well, in the main point, really, to actually, just give players a go like this. They're not going to say, oh, Parasite, yeah, world champion, like, let's just give you a massive bag to come and coach our team like they were doing a few years ago. That's not really happening anymore. And I think it's, to be honest, kind of good that that's not happening anymore, because it was ridiculous, the amount of money that was being spent and wasted, frankly, over the last few years. But it does make, the jobs of guys like this harder to actually get a spot back in the league. So, intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.